Hey bro, do you struggle with gaining value from reading? Well, if you can watch this video from the start to the end, then I can teach you exactly how I started to actually gain value from the books I was reading. Drop subscribe if you find any value in this video. Back in the day, I'd read books and I'd kind of think I was being productive because I was reading them. So I still remember the first self-improvement book I ever read was How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard of that book if you're kind of in the self-improvement sphere. But I was reading it, trying to build up my social skills. But at the same time, I wasn't speaking to new people. I never met new people. I was at school, right? I wasn't starting businesses. I wasn't trying to sell things. The entire time I was reading that book, I didn't implement a single thing in it because I wasn't in the right environment to do that. I didn't need any of those skills. I was just reading it because I was reading it. The 48 Laws of Power, I went on to read that. Again though, nothing. I didn't implement a single thing because I didn't think any of it was applicable to the modern society. There were so many books that I would read, but I wouldn't actually implement anything I learned from them. But the act of reading them in themselves made me feel productive. It was kind of a weird, kind of productive way to procrastinate was what reading became. I'd read a self-improvement book and think I was doing something good for myself, but I wouldn't actually gain any value from it. Then one day I just thought, fuck it, bro. Like, these books are such a waste of time. I'm not doing anything with them. Maybe I watched a video like this one and that kind of inspired me. But I remember the next book I read, which was The Guide to the Good Life by William Irvine. I've spoken about it so many times, but that was the first book I read on self-improvement and actually implemented the strategies that it was teaching. And kind of to a crazy level. So the book would talk about how the old Stoic philosophers would deny themselves of certain things. And so I'd think, okay, I like the idea, I'm going to do that as well. So I shit you not, brother, I would literally just sit there with a bowl of white rice with like a little bit of salt and just eat that by itself. Or like I'd sleep on the floor because I was denying myself of my bed. Like, I would implement the strategies that I was learning to like an autistic level, bro. But I still remember the power of it because that was the first self-improvement book that actually did something to me. I went out of that book thinking, wow, I actually gained a lot of value from that. I genuinely feel a lot better for having read it. And also it taught me the power of reading. And we've spoke about this before, but reading is the most powerful tool in your arsenal. That is the line we love to use, but it is true. When you read a book, you gain experience. When I read that book, I gained the experience of the fucking Stoic philosophers that walked this earth before me. Reading a book like that, like Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, they're so powerful because you can absorb the life of a man. That's what I always say. So Meditations is the perfect example of this, right? But this is a guy, Marcus Aurelius, who's written a book over the course of his life, his literal journal. And you can read that in 2 fucking hours, bro. In 2 hours, you can gain the experience from fucking, I don't know how old Marcus Aurelius was, but that many years of life. You can just absorb that and suck it in and say, all right, fuck it, bro. Like, this is it now. I have all the knowledge of Marcus Aurelius. So anyway, let's not beat around the bush, but how do you actually gain value from reading? And the first step is you need to be taking notes, bro. You can't just read a book and read the book. It needs to be like you're at school. You need to be taking notes on what you've read. So the way I like to do this is, so I read all my books on my computer. I download the PDF form of them. And then I also have a Pages thing up, like a Pages page. What a shit name. A Word document, anyway. And on the one hand, I'll be reading the book, and then anything that I like, anything that will kind of speak to me, I'll note it down. I'll write down the things that I find interesting. And at the same time, I'll copy and paste some random stuff and it'll go over in like fucking Times New Roman at size 56. But anyway, you get the gist. Is you need to be note-taking, bro. You've heard it before, but it is true. Writing something down is the same as reading it 7 times. It's a fucking easy way. It's such a great productivity hack to make your time so much more efficient. When you write something down, your brain absorbs it so much better than the person who's just read the book. You need to be taking notes. But then the next step, which is actually the important part, is after you've written a note down. So say you've written a note, I don't fucking know, Marcus Aurelius says that when he's at his friend's house and a servant drops a cup, he thinks, what would I do if this was my own servant? Or what would I do if I dropped the cup? Or some shit like that. So you write that down and you're like, interesting point, Marcus. But then, like, realistically, bro, like, you don't have servants, brother. Like, how are you going to use that? So the next part of this step is when you write down these things, ask yourself the question, how is this applicable? Write that down. How is this applicable? And then answer it. Answer how that question is applicable in your own life. Maybe, I don't know, you'll say, when I'm at a restaurant and a waiter spills something on me, then I'll react like this. Apply it into your own life. You need to do that with everything. So every single thing that you read, ask yourself the question, how is that applicable? That is the only way you'll gain real value from a book in your life. It's the same with like the 48 Laws of Power that I was speaking about. For me, that book really didn't hold much meaning, or the other one, the fucking Win Friends and Influence People one, because they weren't applicable in my life. But if I just stopped for a second and asked myself, how is this applicable? Then I could have actually gained some value from those books. And then take action immediately. When you read something in a book that requires action, do it. And it's the same with videos. So me, when I make these videos, I'm sure to put in a lot of things. So I put in my actionable steps, I like to call them. And basically, well, that's what they are. They're things that you have to do to actually gain value from the videos. But I don't think enough people do them, because that is where the real crux of these videos lie. If you just watch the video, then you're tricking yourself, bro. Self-improvement becomes masturbation. Like Tyler Durden says, you kind of just sit there and the act of watching the video becomes the productive thing itself. But you need to be doing the actionable steps. So, practice with me. Everyone stand up right now. I'm going to take the camera. And what we're going to do is we're going to implement the Andrew Huberman tactic of getting outside. So let's do this. Everyone, I want you to walk outside with me. So maybe, I don't know, pause the video if outside's a bit further away, because my outside is right here. But come on. Let's go outside. So here we are. We're at the fucking house. And yeah, I just want everyone to come outside and just take in a deep breath and go, take in that fucking thumos breath of fresh air. Then go find yourself a tree. Can you see that? It's a tree. Go and give that tree a little rub. Touch him down. The amount of times I've given that advice, but I don't know how many people actually incorporate it. So right now, if you're not outside, then I want you to rewind that part of the video and go and do it. So welcome back inside, bro. But the last thing that I'm going to tell you is something I still haven't really fully got over. I mean, I kind of have, but it's this whole kind of subconscious idea that when you start a book, you need to read that book from cover to cover, start to finish. But it's just not true, brother. These books that you read, you're reading them to gain information for yourself. You're not reading them just to read the book. Because subconsciously, if you have the belief that you need to read a book fully, that is what you're telling me. You're telling me that the reason you're reading the book is just to read the book. But you're trying to gain value from it. So say you're reading a book, right? And the first chapter is on how to find your purpose. And you read through that and you think, okay, cool, I'm getting some real value here. I'm finding out things that I didn't know before. But then the second chapter goes on to talk about dating. But you're already in a committed relationship. You don't need to read that chapter. Don't feel bad about skipping out parts of the book that don't interest you, that don't provide you value. You can judge a lot by a book's cover. Like, you can find out a lot of what's going to happen by a chapter title. And if it doesn't seem like you're going to gain anything from it, then, bro, skip it. You don't need to read it. And the same thing is true for, like, finishing a book. If you got to halfway through the book and you're kind of like, okay, I've gained everything I can gain from this book, then stop reading it. There's no one telling you that you need to keep going, that you need to read it right till the fucking last acknowledgement, I dedicate this book to my, like, wife's dog or some shit. Like, bro, you don't need to read a book to the end. If you've finished with the value from it, then stop reading it. You are wasting time by reading the epilogue and the conclusion and all this shit. Anyway, come chat to me or give me a call. The link for those are in the description. Hope you enjoyed the video. Manifest excellence. I'm proud of you, bro. Goodbye.